What's going through your mind, Chris? And as you, no.
Yeah, I guess I'd start off with saying that we've extended an offer to Reese Gaines in a developmental position that will involve both, being mentors to our team, guys on the team, and then, being a guy that can help us in development, raising some money and some friends for men's basketball. So,
what will be his position?
Kenny?
Director of Player Development and Alumni Relations.
There you go.
Now, to get back to what I was going to ask earlier, what's going through your mind now that the time's here and you're going to have to step back and so forth? How do you feel?
What's going through my mind is making sure we have a great practice today. And I haven't really looked past that. We've got a lot to cover as we prepare for our first game. And so the good thing is I have a lot of time to think about what I want to do starting tonight at midnight. So I really haven't given it much thought. I'm just trying to make sure our parents are well informed of the players are well informed, the coaching staff, recruits, and just trying to, educate and inform them. I'm not going to be around for a little bit, but as far as, my personal feelings, I haven't really worried about that.
You've talked about a number of times about Mike and how the guys are in good hands. What he can do from 10 years. How much will each of the guys maybe share a responsibility? Ross and Cahill and others.
Well, I've said this before. It's always been and always will be a collaborative thing. I think it. The head coach gets all the headlines. Gets all the interviews, but everything that we do behind the scenes is a collaborative effort. I value every one of their opinions, from coaches on the staff to administrators on the staff that handle men's basketball responsibilities. Everybody's an expert in their own area. So, when you're talking about in game, certainly Ross will have an eye out for offense. Each of those guys are in charge of scouting. In my absence, Taylor Barnett will be an assistant coach and have the ability to, scout and teach. So, how they coordinate huddles and all that stuff is going to be started with Mike, and, responsibilities are shared thereafter.
What have been Mike's areas of emphasis that maybe have influenced the way you go about things? Anything that maybe where your philosophies might differ a little bit, but he persuaded you?
No, I think, what we've presented to the players over the years has always been aligned, Tim, and Mike's smart enough to know that, you have to have one message. You have to have principles that you live by as a team, things that you do on both ends of the floor that, when we present like that's our way of doing things, not my way of doing things. Now, his experiences, he's a little bit more emotional at times. Again, I think that's great. And I think, how he shares his perspective with our players is a great thing. And so Mike will do a great job. He's a born leader. He knows basketball. He knows our system. And he knows our players really well.
Do these games count on your record or his, or does that depend on how many you win?
Probably his, but I don't. Yeah, his. I don't really care. I don't have a record.
Chris, Jarrett was in here earlier, and he talked a lot that you like those player-led type teams. Since you've been here throughout this offseason with this group, have you been able to see these guys step up in that way, and it's been kind of like a player-led type team?
We have some really good older voices. I don't think it's just me that likes player-led teams. I think if any coach would want teams that have really strong leadership, and you have guys that care about the team first, and they make that a priority when they talk to their teammates, when they're in huddles. Anybody that coaches wants that. And so I don't think I'm unique in that sense. We have not faced any adversity yet. Certainly they're going to face a change here at midnight. But I have full confidence, again, the coaching staff and, just as important, if not more important, the players in that locker room and some of the older guys and their voices. So, Jared is as good of a leader as I've been around. Malik's been, been that guy as well, very, very experienced. And then we have some really good followers and some guys that, do their job every single day really well.
You mentioned midnight, and you mentioned having a great practice. Will you work into the evening, late evening?
Yep.
Doing what you do?
Recruiting calls and checking in with parents and anything else I feel like needs to be done.
Chris, I realize this might be a better question answered once you actually get to do it, but these games, how do you approach, I guess, watching them and analyzing them from your point of view? I mean, do you have, like, notes nearby that you take the whole time and relay them all back once you come back, or have you really thought about that much?
I mean, when you understand what you're trying to do on both ends of the floor, you're able to see it materialize. And so that's what I'm anxious to see, how hard we play. Are we in the right spots? Communication is sometimes hard to see on television, but when guys are late by a half second, you can tell when communication has failed. It's a little different when you're standing 15 feet from the action. But I'm a big believer in what we're doing on both ends of the floor, and so I know what I'm looking for, and I know when it looks like it should, and I don't sense it'll feel any different when I'm watching it on TV. It just won't have much influence.
Chris, the Reese Gaines position, is that in the basketball office? Is it a university position?
A little bit of both. I'm not sure exactly where it's physically located.
I mean, will he answer to you, or does he answer to? I mean,
I don't.
do you know? You don't know that.
I don't know.
When to go back to when you were in here for the media day, you said the next, I think it was 24 days or whatever, we're going to be very important. Are you happy with what you guys as a staff and a team have accomplished in that preseason time, the exhibitions leading up to today when Mike takes over?
Yeah, I don't know if as a coach you're ever happy. I think we're where we deserve to be. I think we're going to really find out a lot about ourselves over the next several games, and I'm looking forward to that. And then it's our response to that. If we come out of this thing, 3-3, do we bury our head in the sand, or do we have the leadership that we've talked about? If we come out 6-0, do we think we have every answer to every question? So there's a lot that remains to be seen. I feel like we're in a good spot. I think we have to get way better defensively, and we started to talk about that a lot later than when we started to implement our offense in early June. So our offense right now is probably a little bit ahead of our defense, but we'll start to see when we play some real teams here.
You also were talking about recruiting. How difficult has it been to have this come right now when it's signing week and there's guys out there that are still on the board that have decisions to make? And what have you told those guys that you are still recruiting in this class?
Yeah, it's a challenge with signing day coming up, but we've tried to inform the families as well as we can up to this point, just sort of how to go about if they were to make a commitment, my availability. We've tried to be very transparent with any of the seniors that we're recruiting right now, as well as the juniors and people that are coaching the sophomores. So we tried to be as transparent as we possibly could, knowing that I was going to go bye-bye for a couple weeks.
Stylistically, your changes offensively have been very well received by your fans, it seems like. How well do you think it's going to translate when you start playing Division I?
Well, that's remains to be seen. But we practice against the Division I team every day. We don't just put the starters on one team and go against walk-ons every day. Like we go 5 scholarship players versus 5 scholarship players. We mix the subs with the starters every single day. So they're seeing live action. They're seeing talented players. Some days looks better than others, but again, the commitment to the pace, both with running the floor without having the ball in your hands, the commitment to getting the ball out lag free when a shot's made or a shot's rebounded, I think's pretty good. And again, we're going to play a lot better defenses than we played the first couple games, but that's okay. I think our offense is in a good place and it'll continue to grow.
Chris, Mike said you jokingly told him try not to go 0-6 during the stretch, but do you have any overarching or final piece of advice that you've tried to impart to him before this starts?
Yeah, just to be himself. You certainly have more of a spotlight on you, but be yourself. Be confident in our system. I know he is. He teaches it every single day. And again, he's going to make some decisions that maybe I wouldn't make, but that doesn't mean he's wrong. I think that as long as he has a belief in those, that's what players want to see, is that you're confident in what you do and you're all aligned. So from that standpoint, Mike is very well prepared to take over.
Has Mason been limited at all in practice since that last game when he held him out? Or is he ready
No,
full
he's
go?
been full go. In fact, he won our gold jersey for the week for the guy that led us in Cardinal Way points. So that tells you he's not only been practicing, but practicing really well.
In terms of injuries, how is Gabe coming along?
Gabe's really close. He saw the doctor about a week ago and feel like we have about another week or two until he's, back in action, full speed. He's been participating in wind sprints. He's doing anything 5-on-0 where we tell him not to throw the ball to Gabe. And still guys forget sometimes and throw the ball to Gabe. So he's worked on his left hand.
Just to clear, will Taylor be able to do recruiting as well while you're gone? And how do they, sorry for one more recruiting question, but how will the staff continue to recruit? Will they continue just like you're not, obviously You're not here?
Just like I'm not here. They have an off day, they can go watch a kid, and if they want to make phone calls, if they want to FaceTime, if they want to bring a kid to campus, they can do that.
How much does demonstrated performance help a kid's confidence? Like Roosevelt, he would seem to have played pretty well in that last game. Have you seen that pay off in practice the last couple?
Yeah, I think Rose has done a really good job since we returned from the West Georgia game. I think he's a little bit more understanding that you got to be an everyday guy in practice. You don't just get playing time because you're on the team. You got to earn it. I don't know if he necessarily knew that early on. So, Rose has made a pretty good jump, but again, like most freshmen, that consistency, is what we're striving for.
Chris, you've spoken a bit about what kind of Jared brings as a leader, and then like the dynamic element that L brings. But what does Mason really bring to you guys in that backcourt into that rotation? Like, if
he brings some confidence. He is a very confident player. He has an ability to change speeds and get in the lane. And he's really strong. I'm talking from an offensive standpoint, but really knows how to use his shoulder, without charging over the defense. He's got a great herky-jerky, change of direction, change of speed game, and he's got terrific vision. He sprayed some passes yesterday in practice that I hadn't really seen all preseason. So he's getting juice for these games coming up. And, Mason, I probably didn't include him the other day when people asked, like, who can break a guy down off the dribble, end a shot clock, you have anybody that can create, simply because he hadn't, he didn't play that night when I got asked the question. But Mason's up there with anybody on our team in terms of, like, creating his own.
Realistically, how deep do you expect to go early in the season? And given historical patterns, do you expect to tighten the rotation maybe to 8 or 9?
No, I hope not. I'd like to think that we're going to play no less than 9 players. 11's tough. That means you're playing 3 centers, consistent minutes. They might get a minute or 2, but I think that we're certainly 10 deep for sure.
Anything else, Coach?
I'm going to miss you guys. Can we just go a little bit longer, Kenny?